angels, ghosts, and Bigfoot. Oh my. It's just another night for Supernatural Girlz. Real stories, real answers to life's biggest supernatural mysteries. And now for another exciting interview with paranormal experts from this world and others. Here's your host, paranormal researcher Patricia Baker, on the one, the only Supernatural Girlz.
Welcome, everyone, to another exciting episode of Supernatural Girlz Radio. I am your host, Patricia Baker, and I'm here with my co-host all the way from Tucson, right near the large 400,000-acre fire. Thank God she's okay. PK, how are you tonight?
Absolutely fabulous. As long as I'm away from the smoke, I got it made.
Oh, gosh. It sounds so scary. What a huge fire that is.
Well, we've got so many strong winds right now. The winds are 10 miles per hour, but they're kicking up to about 20, 28 miles an hour. That's not good.
No, it's not. Well, we all need to say some prayers that they find some way to put this thing out. It's just so enormous. But there's a lot of stuff in the air, literally. You were saying lots of change, abrupt change, right?
Too many abrupt changes. If you think about what's really been going on, nothing is normal. You can't help but take a look at what's taking around us. But there's the changes that are coming from so many different directions at once. It's hard to feel grounded in any aspect between the government, our government, the right. Korean government, what's going on. But everybody's doing things in a hurry. You're finding more people complaining of not feeling well. They're eating on the run, and they're taking things in stride. Only when it's, bless you, but only when it's their opportunity to do so. They're driving too fast. They're doing too many things in a hurry. And all of this is coming back at all of us because it isn't just the person involved. It's the chain reaction of what's taking place. And the month itself has been strongly about changes. But if this doesn't get calmed down just a little bit before the end of this month, there's going to be something that's kind of blowing out of the water. There's something happening. You can feel it, but you can't put your finger on it yet. But it's coming.
Yeah, that's very scary stuff. And you're seeing this, I'm sure, in the numbers. So is this specific to tomorrow? Is that what you're seeing?
Definitely. There's going to be some major changes taking place tomorrow. And I'd like to think that it has nothing to do with our fire locally, but there are changes taking place. Everyone is in a hurry, and no one seems to be caring about anyone that's in their way. If you walk through the supermarket, they've got their baskets, and it's like a kamikaze pilot going after your heels. Nothing is normal. Everything is quick fix, and that seems to be the main theme of what's taking place.
It's a very scary time because, again, we're not sure where this change is going to be landing. Where is it really coming from? We don't know. So that's why we always turn to you for some numbers advice in terms of what we need to do and how we need to handle it.
The most important thing I think anybody can do right now is, this is going to sound silly because it's so simplistic, take deep breaths, breathe, and settle down a little bit. Everyone is running on the edge of their tiptoes. If they take that deep breath, they'll be grounded, and that will help everyone, especially if they're on the road.
Yes.
There's too much going on right now. And there's nothing or anyone that you can totally feel that you can trust.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. Wow. That's a lot to take in. Thanks for sharing and scaring the crap out of us.
Well, I would have saved it for Halloween, but that's too far off.
It's too far away, but it's right in line with our show tonight because we have a terrific guest. We've got Butch Witkowski. He's coming on with us in just a few minutes after we finish our next segment. Now, he's an amazing guy. He's taken on some of the scariest cases ever. Mm-hmm. And he began his own investigation into the UFO phenomenon a long time ago. He's now the director of the UFO Research Center of Pennsylvania. And his reports include sightings of an unknown bipedal wolf-like creature terrorizing central Pennsylvania and human mutilations during alien abduction cases. What could be scarier than that? I don't know.
That's a little too over my head.
Well, we're going to get all the details.
I don't understand part of it. It really is. It's frightening to see what is happening.
It is. And I also wanted to tell our listeners that we're working on getting video available of our broadcast. So you and I can now see each other for the first time ever during the show.
Is that wonderful?
It is.
Yeah, I need to pick up my desk.
Yeah. Really. And so if listeners want to go to irntube.com, you'll be able to see us now. Producer warned us that it looks like it's not totally in sync yet, but he will be working on that for next time. So you can just listen to the audio or go back to listen to the audio if you find the irntube.net a little too frustrating. But we are working on it. We're going to bring you a more full media experience before too long, which is great. It's fun for us, fun for you guys.
It's to be able to see what's going on around us.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And who knows what's going to show up, right?
Oh, isn't that the truth? We may have more than we bargained for.
That we may have. Now, on our Facebook page, Supernatural Girlz Facebook page, we've got some great stories. And we also have something that happened to my husband and I this morning. That's called The Mystery of the Bloody Cup. So you need to go to the Facebook page and take a look at this thing. I took a close-up shot of it, and it's a yellow cup. We've had this thing. We've had a set of them for a long time. And I made a big breakfast. I made his coffee, pulled this cup right out of the clean dishwasher, and I would have noticed if something was on this thing. It was clean as could be. Gave him his coffee. We're sitting there eating breakfast, and he turns to me and says, "Why did you give me a dirty cup?" And I was like, "What? The thing was just taken out of the dishwasher. It's not dirty." And he shows it to me, and it looks like there's blood stains dripping down the side of it.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
No joke. So I was just, my mouth was open. I was like, Oh my God, what is this? And I'm like, am I bleeding? I looked at my hands, and my hands were not bleeding. I looked at his hands were not bleeding. So I'm thinking, how could this be? What is this? So he goes to touch the stain to try to, see if it's still wet. It's not. It's dry as a bone, like it's been there for a long time.
Wow.
So I have no idea what it is or how it got there. I called our buddy George Lugo, and I said, "George, you got to look into this. I don't know what put it there." But it happened in between the time I got the coffee out of the machine and I brought it to the table, and he was sitting there eating. I didn't see anything weird, any ghosts, anything. But just all of a sudden, that was there.
How many chairs at the table?
There's 4.
Okay. There was somebody there.
There had to be, and I don't know what the message is. But if we get a message, I'll be sure to let you know. I'm going to be watching for other signs that something else, somebody's communicating something. But it was just the weirdest thing. So
check your cup tomorrow.
I will check my cup. I told my husband, I said, "You better watch yourself."
Definitely. He's been put on notice by the best.
That's right. So the other stories we have are also on our Facebook page, and they are awesome. We have a giant bat.
Right.
Over Lake Michigan. This is the 4th sighting of this thing. It's over 6 feet tall. So we're going to be talking about that with Butch tonight because he knows all about it. He knows the investigator on the case. He works with this investigator. We're going to get the skinny on this one. And these people reported they were out in a boat 2 miles out onto the lake. This thing starts circling overhead. And they beelined it back to the shore. And I think it's smart that they did that because who knows what this thing had in mind, And then they saw some green phosphorescent orb-like thing.
Mm-hmm.
This is something we need to discuss with Butch. You got to find out what's going on out there. But Lake Michigan, they got all kinds of stuff. Disappearances, Dogman. They got everything out there. I don't know why.
What's been happening? When did all this first start that we started noticing big changes over Lake Michigan?
I don't know. We'll have to ask Butch. He knows all about it. We'll ask him. We'll ask him. Now, there's one more story. There's a lot of stories on our Facebook page, but there's another cool story. And this is about a mysterious door nobody can open. And it's in India. I'm going to try to pronounce it right.
Yeah, good luck. I couldn't pronounce it.
Padmanabhaswamy. I think I did it. Okay.
Sounds good.
It is guarded by 2 monks. It has no lock and no door handle, no way to get inside, as we are familiar with a way to get inside. They say it's closed and locked by sound waves. Mm-hmm. Nobody's ever gotten inside. Now, they've opened all the other doors that led up to this. Now, somebody has started a lawsuit so they can actually get this thing open. I think they should open it. What do you think?
I think I'd kind of let it be the powers that be. It would be nice to see how long it's going to stay that way.
Yeah, let's see if they can open it.
There's some
Jerry Wills and the
magical going on with it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they'll be able to open it, but it'll be fun to see.
Well, but they're talking about the sounds, and there was the comment made about disrupting the sound that they get, and what else that could possibly change.
Mm-hmm. And what's inside that room? I mean, they found, I think, billions of dollars worth of treasure in the other rooms. But
Mm-hmm.
this one, they say, holds like the key to the universe. The knowledge that's in there is everything we don't know about, but we'd like to know. So I'd like to see it opened.
Well, that would be nice. But if you think about it, what more they're looking for, treasure, etc. Everything they've already gained. So the real treasure has got to be knowledge.
Yes, it does. And it's behind that door, door number 1. Or door number 8 in this case.
8's money. That's what 8 means. It's all about money.
There you go. There you go.
Be the chairman and be in control. Woohoo.
Wouldn't it be nice if there was a little note inside and all of this goes to PK?
Oh, and I could share it with you.
Yes, you could.
Well, I would definitely do that. Not a doubt in my mind.
Thank you so much, as I would with you. So there you go. Best friends forever. So we're going to be talking about things that are so frightening. I don't know if either one of us will be able to sleep tonight, but I want to urge our audience to also go to the Facebook page, give us a like, follow us on Twitter so you don't miss any of the excitement coming up. We've got great shows every week and more exciting stuff, if that's possible, coming up. So we got to bring this guy on. We got a lot of questions for this guy. So, all right, so here he comes. We are welcoming to the show expert Butch Witkowski. Butch, come on down. Tell us what's going on. I'm scared to hear it, but I want to hear it.
Well, thanks for having me on. Where would you like to start?
You know so much. How about this? I know PK and I have listened to your podcast, and you have a lot to talk about when it comes to these alien abductions that have resulted in mutilations for humans. It's a very scary thing, but we do need to hear about it. I think some of it involved military people, yes?
Well, the human abduction thing is can be both. It can be extraterrestrial and terrestrial. Of course, you have the many stories of the terrestrial abductions, and then there are quite a few stories of people that say they were abducted by people in military uniforms and taken to military bases, and so those stories are also out there. The amount of abductions has increased a good 10% over the last 2 years, and that's checking with other abduction specialists. I saw it in our reports and checking with those folks, and after they did some checking, they said, yeah, about 10% or a little more. We don't know what is bringing that amount up of those abduction reports, but they surely are climbing, as are the people missing. If anybody's familiar with the 411 books by David Pallades, I mean, he's a busy guy too.
Oh, yeah.
But
his cases are very well documented, and they are extremely scary because we have no explanation at all for what's going on. Nothing Nothing
No.
at all.
No,
And-
and you know,
Go
when
ahead.
bodies aren't found, when I first started looking at the abduction cases back in 08, 07, it was amazing to me that the amount of people that were missing every year. And over a period of, well, since 97, where I started looking, up until, well, NCIC, which is the FBI, reports that basically every police department, I don't care how big or small they are, every year they get a pile of paper to fill out. Well, it's on the computer now, but used to be paper. And on there you marked everything. So how many bicycles stolen, how many banks were robbed, how many cars were stolen, how many burglaries, how many rapes, how many murders. And that's how they tabulate the crime statistics that they give out to the public. Now, they're always 2 years behind. But the last one that I updated was 2014, and we're still missing, about 60 to 80,000 people a year. And when I say missing, that is men, women, children, all ages, all groups, and there is nothing found. No body, no clothing, no whereabouts, no credit card use, phone calls, anything like that. I mean, they're just gone. They just disappear. Now, that's only for the United States. And since 97, we're talking millions of people. Now,
These are huge numbers, and nobody has any outrage about this?
well, not many people even know about it. I mean, the information is there if you look for it, but I mean, I don't know of anybody that just, gets on the internet and starts seeing how many missing people there are in the world. Now, when I say world, I'm just saying you take a country like South Africa, where they don't do that. They don't have those kind of numbers. And there are documented reports from that area where men went to work in the morning, as they usually do, and left the home, families, the cattle, the kids, everything, and then came home. The cattle were there, the supper was on the table, and every living human being in that encampment was gone, never seen again.
Gosh.
So...
Well, again, I know it's got to be a terrible heartbreak for any of the family members, loved ones, etc., and a burden for them to carry where they don't have any idea what has happened. So there's all these mysterious disappearances. We don't know who's doing it or what is doing it, but there must be some theories on it. What are the theories that you're considering?
Well, the theories abound. I mean, from extraterrestrial life coming down and taking them, and maybe depositing them in another area, or natural causes like a group of bandits come into town and just take the men, women, and children away, to the government involvement. But I just can't put my finger on the government involvement because there's too many people, and there would have to be too many people involved in doing that, and somebody would open their mouth sooner or later.
You're right. You're right.
Where with a group of bandits, nobody's going to talk about it. We took these people, we sold them to slavery, and slavery is a big thing in this world. So, and it's not unusual. I mean, look at Boko Haram, that group. I mean, they kidnapped 250 girls. So taking that amount of people is no big deal. But it's those ones that are kind of weird, especially in David's cases, where, a father's watching his son play, he turns his head for a minute, turns back, the kid's gone, and he's never seen again. Those are the ones that are intriguing.
Very intriguing. And with the urban disappearances, though, we're talking about young college-age men,
Right.
for the most part, right? And sometimes they do find a body, but they can't find a cause of death.
Well, the last three that I saw were all college age, pretty much in the same area, and one was found on dry ground, and the other two were found in a local river. The cause of death for those two was drowning, but the cause for the third gentleman was unknown. But
Very scary. Very scary.
Yeah. But
The
there's so many
majority
other.
of them,
There's so many other things.
is it drowning in many cases?
No medication, although they were all three last seen at a bar, but the alcohol content found during the autopsy was not that great.
There seems to be some fascination that whoever's doing this abduction stuff with these young men has with German descendants, because it seems that from what David Paulides reported, there are a lot of connections to Germany in this. I wonder, why? Why German people? Why is that so important to them? Have you come across that?
No, I've not. No, everything that we've looked at have been, all genders, all religions, all ages, from babies on up to people in their 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Some legitimately do get lost. There was just, was it Colorado last week? No, it was Northern California last week, where a grandmother and her grandson went missing, and then they found them in the water. They actually got off the trail and slid down an embankment into a pretty fast-moving water, and they were both. But, those cases are pretty easy to come up with, but it's the ones that disappear for no reason whatsoever. And, every year there's 250,000 to 300,000 missing persons reported every year. But like 95% of those are found, and 75% of those are walkaways, kids, young kids. They just, Dad ain't going to give me the car keys, I'm leaving home, and off they go. But they're usually found. And then you other ones that are pretty explainable, which are, elderly walkaways from the home, or husband and wife disputes, or murder, or kidnapping. Those are all, they're accounted for into that, but there's a 5% that hasn't changed since I've been looking in 1997 up till now. That 5% number of 60, 70, 80,000 a year missing is still the same. It doesn't change.
Yeah, and it's not adding up. We've heard the abduction stories like Betty and Barney Hill, Betty Andreasen, Travis Walton. These people were not tortured in the manner that you found for some of these other folks, and thank God they weren't. So we've heard those stories, and then you have other stories about people being taken. And what about those military men? Tell us that story, because there was something that went on, and they were treated just like cattle.
Well, the human mutilation cases really started back in the late 50s in the Four Corners area of the United States. And the best documented case that we have is the Guadaparanga Dam in Brazil. And some guys were out fishing on the Guadaparanga Dam lake, which was a man-made lake and supplies water to Sao Paulo. And the fishermen saw what they thought was somebody sleeping on the beach, and they got themselves close enough, and when they got close enough, they realized that something was very wrong, and they got the police department. And the police showed up, and amazingly, they showed up with a forensic team. And the gentleman was found with his eyes, left ear, inner ear, lower jaw, inner throat, and tongue were removed. There were 1 inch and 1.5 inch holes in his muscle where tissue and glands were removed.
Horrible.
Just like cattle. He was butchered just like a cow. You would find mutilated cattle. Pictures. Some of the things that were very strange were, like, the intestines were removed via the navel. The anus area was cored out to the colon, but the body presented no signs of bloating. And that's pretty remarkable because of the high heat in that area at that time of year. And the body had no odor whatsoever, and there was very, very little blood, none to speak of in the body. And the autopsy report, we got a hold of that, and when we read the autopsy report, death was due, of course, to massive trauma. But one of the things that was remarkable was that there were no signs of rigor mortis or liver mortis. If you've ever seen, especially out where PK lives, I lived in Arizona, in Tucson, and, you'd see a coyote or a rabbit laying along the road at 8 o'clock in the morning, come back, and he's like 10 times his size because of the... So his time of death was placed at 40 to 72 hours before it was discovered, but no bloating and no noticeable amount of blood at the scenes. And the another thing that came up in the autopsy report was the definition and the term that was used several times in the autopsy report, which was vital reaction. Now, vital reaction indicates a response to living body tissue to injury. So if I would stab you in the hand with a pen or anything, you'd pull away and you'd try to get away from it. So, but doing that, you would cause all kind of black and blue marks and tearing and ripping around that wound, trying to get away.
Okay. Right.
So same thing with a knife. But by definition, it can only occur when somebody's alive. And therefore, it's used as an index in ante-mortem injury, and it's very important to forensic scientists and medicine when they attempt to establish if it was inflicted before death or after death. Because if you were dead and I did the exact same thing to you, the only thing that would be in your hand would be a hole. That's it. Nothing else. No ripping, tearing, no black and blue marks, no nothing, just a hole.
So what exactly did they find with this particular man's body?
That all this stuff happened to him while he was alive.
Oh, so they tortured him while he was alive. Oh, my God, how terrible.
And there have been other cases, throughout time, but again, this was no murder. These weren't bullet holes. I mean, all these holes were precision cut, just like they find in cattle mutilation. So whatever was out there mutilating cattle had mutilated this guy. And there are other cases of human mutilation throughout this brief time in history. But it's truly bizarre. In England, they found a few years ago a gentleman driving home on a back road. There was a car blocking the road, so he got out to look for the owners of the road, and he couldn't find anything. And then he started walking around looking, trying to find the owner. And then when he finds the owner, there's the owner, his wife, a son and daughter, lying aside in the bushes on a small hill off of this road, and they are skinned.
Oh my God!
But they are skinned like not like. Look, if you and I took a good steak and we wanted to take the skin off, or take the fat off, there'd be cuts all over the place. We're not
surgeons.
We're not. So, but these people look like. I guess the best way to put it was like they had on the skin suit and somebody just took the suit off.
What kind of technology can do that?
Yeah, nothing on this earth. Well, I mean, I've had people try to explain away cattle mutilations with saying, oh, we have the stuff to do that. Look, many veterinarians have looked at these cases, and they all say the same thing. We couldn't do that. How would you cut into a stomach of a cow, knowing a cow has more than one stomach, and remove the udders without even scratching a stomach? That's impossible.
It is impossible.
Here's this perfectly round circle. The udders are gone. The sac and the udders are gone, but the stomach's intact. It doesn't even have a mark on it, not a scratch. Or an eye is removed, and the eye, instead of being hacked out, is a perfectly round cookie cutter circle, and the eye is removed.
Now,
there's a very
with the cattle, is blood removed also?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So the blood's gone.
Yeah. And then you have the case of Snippy, the horse, where it was a family horse, and they found it mutilated, basically the same shape as a cow. And two detectives are standing there looking at it, and the one detective said, what do you see strange about this? And he says, everything. And the guy says, no, look at his face. So they're looking at the horse's face, and he said, if the eyes were removed, the viscous fluid from the eye would flow to the side and go down the side of his face because he'd be laying down, right?
Right.
In this case, the viscous fluid went down and ran off his snoot. So this horse was standing up when his eyes were removed.
This is so upsetting. I mean, why we can't get to the bottom of this, I find so concerning when it's been going on for so many years. I mean, this is a long period of time that we've known about this, and we still don't know who's behind it. Well, listen, everybody stay tuned. We are having an incredible conversation tonight with Butch Witkowski. He is an expert in this field, and he is filling us in on all of these very horrific alien or whatever they are, abductions and mutilations. We need to get to the bottom of it. So stay tuned, everybody. You are listening to Supernatural. Welcome back, everyone, to Supernatural Girlz Radio. I am your host, Patricia Baker, and I'm here with my co-host from Tucson, PK, and our incredible guest tonight, Butch Witkowski. He's got all the information for us on these very scary abductions, mutilations, strange disappearances. This is the stuff that's going to keep us up all night. So, Butch, you were talking about Snippy the horse, and my heart was breaking for the family that owned their little pet. But it sounds like they found more disturbing things about the horse, that he was treated so badly, basically, when he was still alive. He wasn't dead. He wasn't anesthetized, possibly.
I had a case from South Dakota 2 years ago. I'm sorry, North Dakota, where a girl was riding her horse around in an indoor ring, and there's nothing in there that would hurt a rider or a horse. I mean, nothing protruding out of the walls or anything like that. And she stopped in the middle of the ring, got off the horse. The horse just stayed there. She went to the tack room to get something. Tack room's 50 feet away. She goes into the tack room, comes out, and the horse is standing there, and the whole side of his jaw is missing.
Oh, my gosh.
He's opened up from below his eye all the way to the tip of his chin, and the lower jaw is gone. And the horse didn't yell out, the horse didn't scream, the horse didn't do anything. The horse he was standing right where she left him. Of course,
she must have just about had a heart attack.
They called the vet in. The vet said there's nothing you can do for him, so they put the horse down. But she said at the most she might have been gone maybe 5 minutes.
Oh, my goodness.
There were no other footprints, or nothing was out of place. There was no place in the ring that the horse could have hurt himself, especially standing in the middle of the ring. It was very long. And that case today is just...
That is scary. That is so scary.
You know, we are so vulnerable. We have no idea, do we?
No, we don't. We don't even know what's in the areas we live in.
Yeah. You don't know who to be afraid of.
Yeah.
What? November 2014, I received my very first crypto case. We've always been involved in ufology. We've never involved in cryptozoology or paranormal. And it was a hunter, retired airline pilot, retired combat pilot, who takes his two Weimaraners for a walk every day up in central Pennsylvania. And he was walking up the trail that they go up every day. The dogs start going crazy. They're pulling to the right real hard. They're pulling so hard they're starting to dig holes in the ground. And he doesn't see anything. So he's thinking, well, it's probably a groundhog. It could be a squirrel, a skunk, a deer. It could be anything. And then as he's standing there, this thing walks out from the right-hand side of the road, pays no attention to him or the dogs, and walks into the left side of the road. And he describes it as being about 8 foot tall, maybe a little taller. If you took Arnold Schwarzenegger body mass and covered it in hair, that's kind of what the body looked like. It was not a Bigfoot, nothing resembling Bigfoot, no long arms, and that's it. So he and some friends of his go back the next day armed with weapons, and that was a very bad idea. And they go into the right side where it came out. They didn't find anything. They went to the left side. They get in about 25 yards, and they all get this feeling of, we need to leave right now. Something very bad's going to happen if we stay here. And they back all the way out to their vehicles with their guns, and he calls me and says he's never going back again. He hasn't. A few months after that.
Oh, there's more. Go ahead.
Oh, my. Right now we have 23 cases of this. All descriptions match. No description is different from anybody. They're all exactly the same. The next one we get is two gentlemen, music teachers, coming home from work, and it's just dark, all again up in central Pennsylvania, and they see something chewing, what looks like chewing on a roadkill, a deer, and as they get within a quarter mile of this thing and their headlights illuminated, it stands up.
Oh my.
And the guy says, as they approach it, it locks eyes on them. He describes it as being 8+ feet tall, large wolf-like head, glowing yellow eyes, massive chest, thin-waisted, heavy-thighed, muscular legs that are hocked like a dog, arms with claws, and it just keeps staring at him as they go by, and eventually when he calls, the guy's a nervous wreck, and he says, I don't care what you call it, I can't explain or explicit what he said in those words, but he said, well, I know what I saw, and I saw a werewolf, end of story. It seemed like we were getting case after case after case in what we call now our research area is called the lichen loop. We've never had anything outside reports of this thing outside the lichen loop, which encompasses about 7 or 8 different counties. It also is only seen in very heavy wooded state game lands, federal game lands, and parks. Every time it's been seen now, it has been described exactly the same. 8 to 10 feet tall, large wolf-like head, glowing yellow eyes, massive chest, thin-waisted, heavy-legged, hocked legs like a dog. It's always seen on 2 feet. It's never been seen on 4 legs. It is bipedal. Massive arms with claws, and it stands its ground. And 3 times now we've had this thing encountered with men that had weapons in their hands, and they get this thought in their head, don't shoot. And they just get out of Dodge. We had one lady on a very bright full moon that we had here in 2015, August of 2015, just went outside the house, stand on the porch, and just look at the property because it was almost like daylight out, she said, and there's a big pond in front of the property. And looking down at the pond, and there stands one of these bipedal canines staring into the pond, which was very still but very moonlit. So the only thing we got out of that, or we thought we got out of that, was maybe it never saw itself before and it was looking into a mirror. So we've been on expedition. It's
incredible, these stories.
We've been on expedition.
Now, let me just ask you, what do you call it? Do you call this dog man? Do you call it wolf man? What do you call this thing?
This is a bipedal canine. A dog man is totally different. Dogmen are described as always on all 4s. They stand up every now and then, but they drop again. They look more like a large dog. They have the muzzle. They have floppy ears. They have a tail. This thing has no tail, has pointed ears. It comes in all colors, white, blue, green. I mean, that's just like dogs, multicolored.
Really?
Yeah. Good grief.
Where our bipedal canine is either very dark brown or black, and that's the only time only color it's ever been seen in. There's never been a tail seen or floppy ears or anything or dog-like features. Everybody describes a wolf-like head, massive, very massive. And we during our research, I found an article in an Erie, Pennsylvania newspaper from 1865. This was a creature that was seen at a farm. And the description of the creature was exactly the same description that we have now.
God, so that's how long these things have been wandering around. Now they're carnivorous, it sounds like, yes?
I would think, yeah. But you got to look at it this way, too. If it is out there, it could be a relic. It could be something that's been there forever. Like I said, this is not like, when you talk about dogman, I mean, they're seen in parking lots, on streets, rummaging through garbage cans and stuff like that. This thing is never seen outside of a park, ever. When I say deep forest, our first expedition up, I had one of my guys who was wearing a check plaid shirt, red, walk into the woods, and I said, count off when you go in, because my idea was to use a lot of camera equipment, and he counted to 5, and I couldn't see him anymore.
That's dense forest, for sure.
Ooh.
Gosh. So that's where this thing lives.
Yeah, evidently, because like I said, we have not had a report outside of any park. Even the one that was along that road, he was right on the edge of a state park.
Did they ever see more than one at a time?
Never seen more than one at a time.
Oh, that's so just as well. One's enough.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
They had a tribe of them. Oh my God. So this could be something that predates us, and it's just here, and it's taken its territory, and that's it. But what's also kind of disturbing is the fact that it mentally communicated with the hunters, the ones that went after it, and said and made them think, "Don't shoot." That's what it sounds like, anyways.
Yeah, we've had that on a number of occasions where people that were viewing it just had this feeling of, I need to get out of here, or it's going to be really bad, or I'm going to get hurt, or I'm going to die, or whatever. But, we haven't discounted skinwalkers, because Pennsylvania at one time had no white men. This was all Indian territory. And we had a number of tribes here, Iroquois, Mohawk, Susquehanna. I mean, they were all over the place. And they were at war with each other constantly. So burial mounds found in Pennsylvania. Now, the area in central Pennsylvania where this thing is seen, that was the place of many battles fought between the Indians, the different tribes. And that's something we can't put out of the equation either. Could it be a skinwalker? Could it be a watcher? Could it be a guardian? We don't know that. We're going on the indigenous, of which we had a great deal of help from the Cherokee, Oklahoma with this. And because they are the wolf tribe. And this thing is never seen in any shape or form other than a wolf. And
but tell us, if you would, just fill us in on skinwalkers. What are they?
Skinwalker is actually a witch, and a skinwalker becomes, following the witchery way of the indigenous, to gain power and to gain the stealth of changing into anything it wants to change. And to do that, a skinwalker, by legend, has to kill a family member to become a skinwalker. And when they do that killing, that's when their heart goes black. When the heart goes black is when they are a true skinwalker. And they can change into a bird, a snake, a wolf, a dog, a cat, a chicken, anything they want to be. And they usually try to extract vengeance on enemies, pretty much anything they want to do. But again, this is, it's an indigenous, and I mean, they were the first people that were telling us about Bigfoot. So skinwalkers, every tribe has their own. Navajo have their own, Hopi have their own, Cherokee have their own. Almost all of them have their own type of skinwalker. Navajo skinwalker is a cannibal. It feeds on dead and living people. The Cherokee wolf is just pretty much just a badass. They can make a whole family sick. They can wish a person to die, and they'll die. We don't know how long they live. One story is that if you would recognize, if you were an indigenous and it was on your reservation and you recognized who it was, if you would go to their home and say, I know that you are a skinwalker, they will die within 3 days. Again, that's legend. So, trying to figure out the truth between legend and fact has kept us busy for the last 3 years.
I bet it has. And then, of course, there's Bigfoot to talk about. Now, do you think Bigfoot's involved with any of this? Any of these disappearances?
No.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I'll tell you why. Because, look, they've been looking for Bigfoot over 50 years now. Not found one trace. Nothing. There's not mass sightings or multiple sightings in a certain area. Over time there may be, over years, but like in our cases with the bipedal, this has all transpired since November of 2014, and it's all in the same area, and it's seen by different people in different counties. And yeah, there may be one or two. In one case it was a group of ladies that were going hiking, but it's always seen in different areas, but always in state parks, heavily wooded state parks. And we really don't know what we're dealing with. We never gave it a name. All we just said was a bipedal canine, because it does walk on 2 feet. It's always been on 2 feet. And canine because it has the wolf appearance. And so that's enough to. I mean, we're looking for it. We've got our own our own equipment trucks. I mean, we have 2 research vehicles. They have everything on from satellite communications, satellite phones, to computers, to cameras of all types, FLIR devices, infrared. I mean, looking, but I don't know. I mean, our very first expedition was really strange. Our second expedition wasn't quite as strange as the first, but it was strange enough. So we thought, we were pretty sure after we talked to a lot of different people about it, that we did have a visit that weekend, although we didn't see it. But we were in the middle of a state park that has the largest game concentration in the state. We didn't hear a thing for 3 days. Nothing, not a bird chirp, not a squirrel, not
And that's
anything.
usually indicative of something's happening in another dimension.
Mm-hmm.
So, it reminds me of the story that Paulides tells in one of his books about the little girl. I think she's 3 years old or so, and her father's a logger. He has a logging operation. Does this ring a bell?
And
she would run up the hill, and then, this is in the 1800s, and he would put her in the horse cart, and they would pull her back down the hill, and then she'd run up the hill again, and her father would put her back on the cart. And so she did this all day long, or as long as she could, being 3. But then one time he got up on the hill and she was not there. She was gone. And these 2 hunters happened upon this frantic search for her. And 2 miles away, they see this big thing get up and leap over the river, and down the river, the thing is gone. It's huge, it's black, it's hairy. They don't know what the hell they just saw, but they hear the little girl, and thank God she was alive, and she was under the brambles somewhere. And they said, well, why didn't, we were calling for you. Why didn't you let us know where you were? And she said, he wouldn't let me. And the father said, where's your hat? And she said, the wolf ate my hat.
Oh, God.
And, of course, they don't know what she's talking about. And they're like, what? And then did the wolf, give you anything to eat? And she's like, yes, the wolf gave me berries in his hand. So they were stymied, but thank God they found her alive. One of the lucky ones.
I think one of the most puzzling, some of his cases are where somebody's just, like a child has disappeared, and from a mountain, and then there's like another mountain in between and another mountain, and the body of the child is found on the 3rd mountain, and there's no possible way that child could get from first mountain to the 3rd mountain at all.
Exactly
ever.
Right. Yes, but I just don't get what their intention could be. I mean, for this bipedal canine, for example, what's their interest in small children? Why kidnap a small child? That was the intention there, obviously. He grabbed her.
That's with Bigfoot. We haven't had that with the bipedal canine. Bigfoot are involved mostly, or thought to be involved in some of these kidnappings on the 411 cases. But our bipedals, we can't find anything historically or recently where anybody's been hurt. They do show themselves. They are not afraid. They don't back off. They show no fear whatsoever, whether you're carrying a rifle, a pistol, or you're just standing there on your next to your bicycle. They don't care. And it just seems like everybody gets that the minute they see them, and even the ones that view them for a little bit get that same feeling, like it knows they're there, and it's already put into your mind that you really need to leave or something bad is going to happen. So they're almost protecting people in some way. Well,
keep away
I think
from us.
They're protecting something in that area. Now, what is in that area, we don't know. There's many mines, many caves here in Pennsylvania. Just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them. Where would they go? Are they interdimensional? Are they flesh and blood? I don't know. So we've added a whole bunch of new types of equipment to the vans, and our next expedition is actually at the end of this month. and we'll be going back into the same areas. We're just going to try a little different techniques to see if we can draw it to us. Now, we don't carry lethal weapons. I'm not out to kill anything. We carry defensive, non-lethal weapons, just like they would carry in a zoo, ghost gas, riot pellets, pretty much high-powered air guns is what they are. And and that would be, we could use that on coyotes and stuff like that, but we could drop, we could chase a bear off with that kind of stuff. But that's the only defensive stuff we carry. And so people always say, are you going out there hunting? And I said, I'm not hunting anything. I just want to prove it exists. So if one of our cameras or one of our surveillance cameras, which takes a photograph every second, if it picks one of those up, I mean, if we can get it on film or video or FLIR devices or infrared, I'll be happy.
It would be great.
And I promise I won't go looking for it anymore.
It just seems so strange that they've only seen one at a time, because everything seems to have a partner somewhere between here and there. And
they may be seeing different ones, but we've never had any together. And they are in this, when I say this cluster of counties, it's dead center. Pennsylvania, goes from north to south, kind of on a right angle, heading toward the east, bottom toward the west at the top. But it's not very expanded. If you would go on Phantoms and Monsters website, you could see a picture of that, our research area.
Oh, great.
We have another number. We have a number of researchers working on this. We look at it pretty much every day. It is very time-consuming, especially with the background research, because what I knew about werewolves and bipedal anything, I got when I was probably 10 or 12 years old watching a Wolfman Lon Chaney on television.
Right. So we all got.
Yeah. So you find this, or you get this information of this type of a creature running around, and you've got to try to come up with what you think it possibly could be. We've only had one case where showed aggression, and that was to a hunter in a tree stand this past December, where it got within 100 feet of him, walked up to him, got within 100 feet of him, and then growled at him. And then it just ran off in another direction.
That is so strange. It's only aggressive to a point, so it didn't try to harm him. It obviously could have. It has the strength to do it.
But there again, he sat there in that tree stand with that 30-06 rifle with a scope pointed right at it.
Okay.
And he had
oh, that's why he growled.
Yeah.
The exact same feeling, not to shoot.
See, and that, I would think, makes it very challenging for you and your partner as a researcher, because they know you're coming. They know you're there. They know how to hide from you. If they don't want to be seen, they're not going to be seen.
Right. Yeah. That's what always amazed me with Bigfoot hunters, where, and a lot of them are my friends, but I always say, like, why are you guys running around the woods? Where are you running to? Like, the particular area, just the one area that we go to, where we had our first couple sightings, it's 6,800 acres of heavily wooded land. 6,800 acres. So where do I start? So I got to go where he was last seen. But these the Bigfoot hunters, they'll pick out a place where there was a report, and they'll just start walking through the woods. I mean, there's no rhyme or reason to it. I mean, you're just walking through the woods, and I'm thinking, well, I don't want to look for it. I want it to look for me.
I don't know about that.
I want it to come to me. So we have a whole bunch of different stuff we're going to try this time around and throughout the summer. Different lighting techniques, different things that could attract its attention. And we're going to try to get it within our camera ranges. And right now our camera ranges can cover pretty much about 300 feet side to side, where something will get caught on the camera.
Well, the people that I know that have been very successful with Bigfoot, have been people that have communicated with Bigfoot. So they've learned to be patient and to allow the Bigfoot to come to them, and et cetera, et cetera. They've done some really magnificent work with that. But it leads me to believe that a lot of this is based on your ability to communicate with them, whether you bring an animal psychic or not. Okay, I'm going to have to take a break, but we will be right back. You are listening to Supernatural Girlz Radio. Stay tuned, everyone. Welcome back, everyone, to Supernatural Girlz Radio. I'm your host, Patricia Baker, and I am here with my lovely co-host from Tucson. And she's not on fire. Thank God. The fires are staying away from her.
That's right.
Praise the Lord. Good.
Just too hot to handle.
Yeah, I guess. Well, these stories we're hearing tonight are pretty hot to handle, let me
Aren't
tell
they,
you.
though?
Oh, my God. So, Butch, I've got a couple questions for you from the chat room. Are you ready for them?
Sure.
Okay, here. This one is from Daria. She is a Russian listener, one of them, and she wants to know if there are any cases in Russia that made it into the U.S. news.
Usually they're UFO cases. Every now and then, and I say every now and then, I usually get one or two a year that we get that'll be something that has to do with Bigfoot. But most cases out of Russia are UFO.
Okay, well, they're on top of it over there, I think, much more than we are. And here's another question. Are these cases mainly being reported from the U.S., or are there international investigators who are as active as you guys?
Well, I can't speak for other investigators as far as active, but the U4COP group, the UFO Research Center of Pennsylvania, we have 12 affiliates in different states throughout the United States. We go as far out as Utah. The cases that we investigate come directly to us. I do not, and never have, probably never will either, unless we're asked to get involved in another group's investigation. I just find that to be bad business, one way or another. So, but as far as helping anybody, if anybody calls for the help, we'll help them. Anyway,
and how do people get a hold of you, Butch? What's the best way for people to reach out to you?
Best way is on our website, which is www.uforcop.com, or Facebook. Okay. I'm on Facebook, so they can get U4COP on Facebook, or UFO Research Center Pennsylvania on Facebook. Or we also edit JAR Magazine, which is a journal of abnormal abduction, and yeah, that's probably the easiest way. Yeah, if they go on our homepage, our website page, they'll see a contact thing there. If they just click on contact for Pennsylvania, that comes direct to me.
Excellent, because I'm sure there's some listeners who would like to talk to you about their own experiences. So This will give them a way to reach out to you. So again, I want to revisit some of the military involvement that you found. Tell us more about that.
The only military involvement that we pretty much say that we can verify that we found was another group of Bigfoot hunters that we know very well for a very long time were on in their research area in central Pennsylvania, north central Pennsylvania, and going about their business, doing what they do, and they were walking down this trail. And out of the side of the bushes comes this guy dressed in full combat gear, carrying an MP4 rifle, vision, the whole 9 yards. I mean, this guy's dressed for war. And he's as startled to see them as they are to see him. And the leader of the Bigfoot group just says, well, howdy. And the guy looked at him and said, like, yeah. He said, I'm going to be out here looking for bear, hunting bear. And he turned around and disappeared back into the woods. Now, first of all, he wasn't in bear season. Second of all, you're not allowed to hunt with a full automatic rifle in the state.
Yeah.
It's a little different.
Both of those things are no-nos.
And
Oh, my goodness.
why would you be dressed in combat gear?
Yeah. So what was he doing out there? What is your thought on that?
I have no idea. But that's not the only case that's the one that we know of, but there have been a number of cases where people have seen creatures, down along the Maryland-Pennsylvania line, where they went to report the sighting of what they thought was a Bigfoot along a creek, and by the time they walked to their car, the police cars were rolling in, there were military-type vehicles showing up, and there were helicopters in the sky.
Wow.
So they know about this stuff.
Oh, sure. You have the famous case of Mount St. Helens after everything was done over there with the explosion and all that, where they were carting out dead Bigfoot and severely burned Bigfoot, and that was all done by the military.
But yet they are going to act like we're all crazy if we see one.
Well, they tell you that if you see a UFO.
Right.
That's true.
No matter what it is in the paranormal, they don't want to come clean about it.
No.
Never saw it.
Yeah. Why is that? Why won't they just come clean on these things? They're investigating it. They're doing whatever they do with Bigfoot bodies. And why don't they just come clean?
Because if they admitted to UFOs, Bigfoot, or anything else, they would be admitting that they've been lying to the public for a long, long time. At least 70 years.
Oh, my God, that long.
Mm-hmm. Well, the first...
Surprise, it's not longer.
No.
First was in 1947 in Roswell.
That's right. See,
That's 70.
We forget about that. We know about it, but the span of space, you forget.
And also the Aztec case in New Mexico. That was a huge, huge thing. But again, we know that the government's lying to us about what they do know. And yet it seems like they really don't have a handle on controlling these creatures. These creatures control them. I can't imagine they've got a handle on this bipedal canine that you're describing.
No. We haven't run into anybody in the woods. If I do, though, I'm not just going to say howdy.
You're not.
That's called feet don't fail me now.
I think, it's like when people talk about disclosure that the government's going to tell you everything they ever knew, that's never going to happen.
No, you're right. It won't.
That'll change religions, academia, religions will change, everything. Everybody's thought process will change. Nobody will believe, you won't even believe your own wife.
Well, there goes the neighborhood.
That's right.
Until you see the credit card bill.
That would be convincing. I just see so much that's been undercover. And then we have wonderful researchers like you that bring it out in the open. And as I said to David Weatherly when PK and I had him on the show, you're doing really important work because you're bringing this to light. You're not one of these people that's pushing it under the rug. You're bringing it out so that all of us can become familiar with it. We're not the only ones on the planet, whether these things are aliens or whether these things are creatures from long ago. They're here.
Yeah,
and we need to understand that they're here. And at times it's to our detriment that they're here.
Well, we have two other cases, but they started out as UFO cases. They've turned into paranormal cases. And the one has just got me totally baffled. Gentleman is seeing stuff in his house, and I've been to the house. These people are antique dealers. They collect satanic things. Let's put it that way. Mm-hmm. Voodoo masks, all this dark stuff. The house looks like a museum. But he kept telling me about seeing these things, and I got really bad vibes when I was walking around the house. And I took a bunch of pictures, and I didn't get anything. But he sent me pictures the other day, and he says these things were standing at the child gate. Now he's a little boy. He's only a year and a half old. He's not as tall as the gate is. The gate's like 3 foot tall, and there's these, he said, I couldn't, every time I picked up my camera to take a picture of them, they weren't there. But so what he did was he went upstairs and he got his wife's dressing mirror and brought that down and set it in the kitchen in the corner facing that door. Well, there they were. So I took a picture of the mirror, and there they are.
Ah, okay.
For heaven's sakes.
Yeah, that's not unusual. Mm-hmm.
They have no dogs and cats, so there's no dogs and cats standing there. They have no animals in the house, and I don't know what the hell they are. I've sent that photo to a couple paranormal investigators. They don't have any idea. They're very dark. One's about, using the gate as a measurement, the gate's 3 foot tall. So I would say the one is probably 3'6", and the other one is probably closer to 4 foot.
Are they black-eyed kids?
Nope, no black-eyed kids. They're black. They have a shape. You can see a head and shoulders, but not human. Very dark, very black. No distinction like you could tell arms or anything like that. But there they are.
Well, and you have to wonder what attachment they might have to some of the objects in the house. Because anybody who collects that kind of stuff, they're obviously inviting that in.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking they brought something in the house that's not going to leave.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like to me. I'm in total agreement. You got to be so careful. I mean, these antique dealers, when they bring things in like that, sometimes they have attachments. There was a show on The Haunting that addressed this, and a man similar to this had a huge collection, and he inadvertently brought something home, and it was a demon that was sent to guard a cemetery, well, not a cemetery, but, it was like a graveyard of these ancient bodies that got released. It was able to come in and out of portals, and it killed the guy. It literally killed him, dead. And they brought these psychics in to try to clear the house, and they were scared to death of it. They had a real hard time with it, and I don't think they ever cleared that house of this thing.
Did you say that they were bringing in items that were shall we say, ritualistic type things?
Yes, because keep in mind that in ancient Egypt, they knew how to use magic. They knew how to bind these creatures. And these creatures were bound to protect the tombs. And that also was true for many, many shamans and things like that in South America. So this guy brought something home from South America, and it was a mistake, because it cost him his life. So these things can be very dangerous. So these people that you mentioned, Butch, that have these antiques, gosh, I don't know how they can sleep at night.
They may not.
When I first walked in the house, I'm Catholic, so the very first thing I saw was there's a crucifix like on every wall. And
I have one there too, and I'm not even Catholic.
He said, we collect those. He said, those are crucifixes off of coffins.
Oh
God.
And then I saw little vials of dirt, and I said, well, what's that? What's in there? And he said, well, that's dirt from a grave.
Oh, wow.
And then he started showing me
some. People are lucky to be on this side of the veil.
Some of this voodoo stuff they have is just,
Wow.
Incredible.
You wouldn't get us to go in there. Well, I've got a question for you from Ramona, Butch. She's saying, really interesting show, but it has me a bit spooked. Do you think that with the increase in Bigfoot interest over the past few years, that maybe all the increased thought energy has created a tulpa similar to Bigfoot?
That's possible. I mean, look, all the people have been rummaging around in the woods, doing what they're doing with their anywhere from fruit sacrifices to leaving hot dogs, frying chicken and on donuts all over the place, and nailing pork ribs on trees. I mean, is it? And I had that asked to me by an indigenous, where he said, "Has there been a lot of disturbance in that area?" Well, it's big hunting area here in Pennsylvania. So I said, every year Pennsylvania has 250,000 hunters out in the field and hunting. And I said, but that's been going on like that since ever I can remember. And he says, do you think if they found something like arrowheads or remnants that they would take them? I said, absolutely. Sure they would. And their thinking is that maybe with all these gas lines we have going in here in Pennsylvania, that something very important was disturbed. And in all the areas, whether it's our bipedal reports or reports that we get through other groups on Bigfoot, almost every place where they're seeing new reports coming are areas that have been disturbed.
Oh,
so
wow.
they're disturbing just the natural peacefulness of the wooded areas, or they've disturbed something that they shouldn't really have even touched.
Well, yeah, especially there's so much talk about what's underground, that we actually have a hollow earth, and there's a complete civilization, maybe more than one, down there. So maybe some of that drilling is starting to affect these other civilizations. But these, it's just fascinating, and I'm sure you find it fascinating. This is quite a job you have.
Well, I had a job. I'm actually retired.
This is quite a retirement that you're involved in.
I mean, I retired from law enforcement, and then I retired from a Fortune 500 company, and now I'm busier than I ever was. So it is very unsettling, and I'm a researcher for Lon Strickler and Phantoms and Monsters with his Fortean group. So I help him where I can and with what I can, and vice versa. And we used everything from remote viewing to empaths, everything we could find to come up with some answers. And although we do get some things that help us, we're pretty much flying blind. I mean, we're just trying everything we can to either get this not resolved. I doubt anybody's ever going to resolve it, but to at least get some good evidence, because, without evidence and proof, it's just a story.
Unfortunately.
Well, it is.
True.
It is. I mean, but this I'm going back to these stories that you've shared with us about the bipedal canine. It reminds me of ancient Egyptian statues, and the head, the dog head, the dog,
and then
head of the
standing
god.
on their hind legs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I wonder if there's some type of connection there. It just seems that nothing just happens by itself. And as you mentioned, PK, there is some connection here somewhere, possibly to our ancient past, possibly to ancient Egypt. But they certainly have staked out their territory, as you've mentioned, Butch.
Yeah, they, like I said, now there are dogman reports out in way western Pennsylvania and eastern Ohio and down into West Virginia, but no reports like we have. Not of what we're looking for. I mean, their reports from Michigan, Dogman, all the way down through that area in Ohio. That's a canine. It's probably a wild dog that they're seeing. And people have been attacked with those things. We have no attacks with the bipedal canine.
Isn't that interesting? And what about this bat-like creature that has been reported recently? Tell us about that.
Well, it started a few days, about 8 days ago, 10 days ago now, I guess, in Chicago, where a creature has been seen. It's been described, first time 8 foot, then the second time 6 foot, and I think the third time it was like 6 or 8 feet, something like that. But anyway, you don't have to go back too far. Matter of fact, when we did do a little background research on it, and I think it was Ken Gerhard that actually sent us a report of a Paradon encounter near Chicago in 1969. So, what's that all about?
So these things, yeah, exactly. So what do you think this bat thing is? Mothman? Is this another rendition of Mothman?
Right off the top, my first guess would be that it's a large bird. Maybe a sand crane, large owl. I mean, look, you get an owl on the ground. Yeah, they may only stand 2.5, 3 feet tall, but when they extend their wings, you're looking at 12 feet wide.
Oh yes, yeah. We have big owls up here. Yeah, and they look prehistoric. Yeah.
Look at a condor. And condors have been seen on the East Coast. They get caught in the jet stream. And they're 1 minute and they're in California, and a few days later, with the jet stream, they're parked in New Jersey. So,
quite a trip.
It's
Now,
not
but the description of this bat-like thing says that they're blacker than black. I mean, they're just a tremendously deep color black. Is that a sand crane? Can a sand crane be that color?
Well, it was they come in many colors, and not so much black, but they do come in a dark gray. And at night, with very little light, would be black. I would think.
That would really be frightening. And these people talk about being 2 miles out on Lake Michigan when they saw it.
Yeah.
So I would imagine they felt fairly vulnerable. Now, what's your advice to anybody who might spot something like this? What would you tell them to do, whether it's the bat thing or the bipedal canine or Bigfoot? What would you tell them to do?
Leave the area.
Fast.
Like you said,
exactly. Tell people when they say, what if a UFO is getting close? Run.
Mm-hmm.
Look, they could be. I think they're more malevolent than they are benevolent. If they were benevolent, we wouldn't have things like cancer and blindness and mental institutions and stuff like that. So I'm always err on the side and say that they're more malevolent than they are benevolent. And
so don't even stop to take pictures. I would say at least take a picture, then run.
Oh, yeah.
We'll let you do that.
It's amazing that, not too many years ago, nobody carried a camera.
True.
Now
Right.
everybody's got one on their hip.
That's right.
But when they take the picture, it's almost like the wife yells to the husband, "Run into the house and get me the worst camera we have so I can take a picture."
Meanwhile, they've got their cell phone in their hand, right? Their iPhone with their new camera in it.
And they stick their finger over the lens.
There are no good pictures of Bigfoot. The only reasonably good picture of Bigfoot is the Patterson-Gimlin film of Patty, and there hasn't been anything since. So we have some very sophisticated stuff. All our stuff is Nikon or Canon, and it's top-line stuff. I mean, it's very expensive gear. And, a guy takes a picture, and everything around the image he's trying to shoot is perfectly clear and right on the money, but the object he's shooting at is nothing but a blur. Now, is that individual or whatever he's shooting making that camera blur out? Possible, I guess. Everything's possible. You got to keep an open mind. But I just find it hard to believe after 70 years of UFOs, and we have many, many pictures of UFOs, that we still don't know anything about them. And in Bigfoot, I don't know how old, that's over 50 years, we don't even have a good picture or hair or scat or anything. Well,
I'll tell you what a friend of mine told me. He's a Cherokee, an elder in the Cherokee medicine venue, and she said she used to go out to a camp where the Bigfoot would gather, and she was communicating with them. She was friends with them. But she said they didn't want their picture taken. They felt it was like taking a piece of their soul. And so she said every year I'd go out and I'd bring my camera and ask their permission, and they would say no. So there's something about that in their own tradition where they don't like cameras, apparently. And it sounded plausible to me because I've heard that from other people, other members of indigenous tribes. They don't want their picture taken, and they feel the same thing, that it takes a piece of their soul. So they're not going to help out with getting pictures.
Well, the Indians always felt that way. When the old Westerns, when they had them standing up, putting up the flash screen and whatever to take pictures, the Indians were so concerned about it taking their soul.
Yes. See? So maybe that's the reason, Butch. I don't know. Can only speculate at this point, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of peoples around the world that's a no-no, taking a picture.
That's right.
And
that's right.
If anybody wants to read our cases, if they go to the cases, the bipedal and stuff like that, if they want to go to read our cases, if they just go to phantomsandmonsters.com, they can read them all. We put everything up there.
So go to phantomsandmonsters.com. All right. And thank you, Butch, for a terrific show. You have scared us all the way down to our toes, and we appreciate you sharing all your great knowledge. Keep up the good work,
Definitely.
and hopefully you'll get to the bottom of this someday. Now, next week, everybody, we'll be back with another show, and we have John Edmonds from Stardust Ranch, the Alien Ranch. He's going to come tell us what's been happening there. So again, Butch, thank you so much, and everybody, We will see you on the Blue Highway. Good night.
Good night.